In a world overflowing with noise, the truth often hides in the quietest places. It is not in the storm of words that the heart is revealed, but in the still, unguarded gestures that slip through without thought. A glance, a shift, a subtle movement, these are the silent confessions of the soul. To notice them, one must be fully here, rooted in the present moment. In that stillness, the gesture becomes a portal, an opening into what is felt but not spoken. Stay with me, and you will learn to see what most pass by without ever truly seeing. When you look at another human being, you may think you are perceiving them through the words they speak, the sentences they weave, the explanations they give. And yet, there exists a deeper language, one so ancient, so immediate, that it bypasses the mind entirely. It is a language without grammar or vocabulary. It is spoken in the smallest movements, the subtlest changes, the brief flicker in the eyes, or the slight tightening of a hand. A single gesture can carry more truth than an hour of carefully chosen words. But to perceive it, you must enter a different kind of seeing. In most of our interactions, we are distracted. We are busy thinking of our response while the other is still speaking. We are busy judging, comparing, recalling the past, or anticipating what comes next. This inner noise blinds us to the delicate signals that appear in the space between words. These gestures are not rehearsed. They are not crafted to impress or convince. They arise spontaneously from the depths of the person's inner state, and in that spontaneity lies their purity. Imagine a moment when someone says, "I'm fine." Yet as the words leave their lips, their shoulders drop just a fraction, their gaze drifts for a heartbeat, and their fingers curl slightly inward. The mind may accept the verbal statement, but your deeper awareness registers the unspoken truth. Something in you knows that "I'm fine" is not fine. This knowing does not come from analysis or suspicion, it comes from presence. It comes from your ability to inhabit this moment so fully that the silent language beneath words becomes clear. This silent language is not limited to expressions of pain or concealment. Joy, love, fear, longing, each finds its own way of moving through the body. When someone feels genuine warmth toward you, it may appear in the softness of their eyes, the openness of their posture, the slight lean toward you as they speak. They may never say the words "I care," and yet their presence tells you unmistakably. These subtle cues bypass the intellect and touch you directly. They are felt before they are thought about. But there is a challenge. To sense this silent language, you cannot be preoccupied with your own performance, your own need to be understood, liked, or validated. When your attention is split half in your mind and half on the other person, you will only catch fragments. To truly see, you must drop into the stillness that is already here. The stillness in which perception becomes clear, undistorted. Then the slightest shift in someone's face becomes as visible as a gust of wind moving through still water. This is not about watching with suspicion or reading meaning into every movement. The mind loves to interpret, to build stories, to declare, "He crossed his arms, he must be defensive." But the silent language is not a code to be cracked with logic. It is a living presence to be felt. A gesture can mean one thing in the mind's world of labels, and a completely different thing in the world of actual experience. What matters is not the label, but the awareness you bring to it. You may recall moments in your own life when you revealed more than you intended, not through your words, but through your body's spontaneous expression. Perhaps you were trying to hide sadness, and yet your breath grew shallow and your voice trembled ever so slightly. Or perhaps you were excited beyond measure, and your hands kept moving in ways you could not control. These are reminders that the body speaks when the mind is silent, or even when the mind wishes to remain silent. And so it is with others. Their inner truth ripples outward in subtle waves that can only be caught if you are listening with your whole being. When you become still, these gestures begin to stand out in a way that feels almost miraculous. A small pause before a reply becomes a story in itself. A quick glance away in a moment of intimacy becomes an entire chapter of unspoken emotion. Sometimes, the most telling moment is not even in the gesture itself, but in its absence. Someone may remain unusually still, hands frozen, body rigid, not because there is nothing to express, but because expression is being held back. The absence, too, is part of the language. In this way, presence becomes both your translator and your lens. Through presence, you are not seeking to figure out what the other person is feeling, you are allowing their truth to reveal itself naturally. This requires patience, humility, and the willingness to let go of what you think you know. The moment you decide you have understood everything, you stop truly seeing. But when you remain open, curious, without judgment, the gesture speaks to you in a way that is unmistakable. There is a quiet beauty in realizing that these unspoken signals are not mistakes or leaks, they are part of the human design. Words can be shaped, hidden, polished, and manipulated. But the body's language, in its most spontaneous form, is a pure reflection of the inner state. It is life expressing itself through form, a flicker in the eyes, the way someone's fingers brush the edge of a cup, the rhythm of their breath as they listen. These are like brushstrokes in a painting that, together, reveal a scene no words could fully describe. And so, one of his gestures may reveal more than all the sentences he could construct in a lifetime. Not because the gesture is magical, but because you were present enough to receive it. The silent language beneath words is always here, woven into every interaction, every encounter. But it waits for the still observer, the one who sees without grasping, hears without judging, and feels without demanding. It waits for you to notice not just the movement itself, but the life that is moving through it. When you begin to live this way, you realize something profound. Communication is happening all the time, far beyond the spoken word. You discover that every human being is constantly expressing the truth of their inner world, sometimes loudly, sometimes in whispers softer than a breath. And if you are here, truly here, you will hear those whispers as clearly as if they were spoken aloud. And yet, as much as a gesture can speak, there is another space where truth leaves a space so easily overlooked. It is the stillness between actions, that pause before the hand moves, before the smile forms, before the body shifts. It is in these pauses that the raw, unshaped energy of feeling becomes visible to the one who is truly attentive. Most people are eager to fill the space. They rush from word to word, action to action, as if silence were an empty void to be avoided. But the stillness is not empty, it is full of presence, full of subtle signals, full of the energy that will soon take form as a gesture. If you are quiet enough inside, you will sense this gathering of energy before it becomes movement. It is like watching the ocean draw back before a wave forms. In conversation, the mind often focuses on what is said or done, rarely on what is not. But the absence of movement is not the absence of meaning. Sometimes a pause carries more truth than the act that follows. The delay before an answer, the momentary stillness in the body, the suspension of breath, these are not accidents. They are the inner world making itself known in the purest way, before it has been shaped to fit the outer world. You may notice that in these moments, time feels different. A second can stretch, a heartbeat can feel like an eternity. Your own awareness sharpens as if drawn into the gravity of that pause. This is not a mental effort, it is a natural response when you are fully here. The stillness between actions pulls you deeper into the present moment, where perception is no longer clouded by past stories or future expectations. Sometimes the stillness is heavy, dense, as if weighted by something unsaid. Other times it is light, spacious, filled with ease. You begin to see that this stillness is not neutral, it carries the texture of the person's emotional state. A pause after a question might carry hesitation, fear, or deep reflection. A long exhale before speaking may reveal relief or resignation. All of this is visible when your awareness rests not only on what is happening, but also on what is not. It is in this space that the silent language beneath words becomes most luminous. The gesture itself might pass quickly, but the stillness before and after holds the truth together, like the silence that gives music its depth. If you can rest in that stillness without needing to force movement, without rushing to fill it with your own words, you begin to hear what cannot be said. The pause becomes a mirror, showing you not only the other person's state, but your own ability to simply be present. And when the stillness finally gives way to movement, it is not the motion alone that matters, it is the energy behind it. Every gesture is born from an inner state, and that inner state leaves its imprint on the movement like wind shaping the path of smoke. Two people can make the same motion a touch of the hand, a glance to the side, yet one carries warmth and presence, while the other feels mechanical and distant. The difference is not in the form, but in the life that flows through it. If you are present, you can feel the quality of that energy the moment it emerges. It might be grounded and steady, carrying a quiet strength. It might be restless and fragmented, betraying an unsettled mind. It might be hesitant, as if holding back, or it might surge forward with unguarded openness. The body cannot move without revealing the state of being that animates it. Even the smallest shift, how someone places a cup on a table, how they turn their head toward you, carries the fingerprint of their inner world. This is why true perception is not simply about watching the surface. If you remain on the level of form, you might notice only that a hand moved or that eyes looked away. But when you tune into the energy behind the movement, you sense whether that glance was an escape, an invitation, or a moment of inner retreat. You feel whether the hand's motion was rushed by anxiety or slowed by contemplation. Energy reveals intention, even when intention is unconscious. Often, a person may not know why they moved a certain way, why they leaned in or stepped back. But the movement carries the truth of that unspoken reason. To see this is not to intrude on someone's privacy, it is simply to witness what is already being expressed through them. In the same way, you might watch the sky and know a storm is coming by the quality of the wind. When you become attuned to this, you stop needing to interpret every movement with mental analysis. You don't force a meaning, you allow the feeling of the movement to speak for itself. Just as a musician hears the tone behind the note, you begin to hear the tone behind the gesture. And in this awareness, you connect not just with the outer act, but with the life that made it possible. The more you rest in this state of presence, the clearer the energy becomes. You begin to notice that movements made with genuine presence have a certain fluidity, a natural ease, while those born of tension or inner conflict are disjointed, rushed, or hesitant. You start to recognize that what you are perceiving is not just the action, it is the being within the action, the unspoken essence moving beneath the surface. And when you witness the being within the action, something else begins to happen. You realize that in perceiving another so deeply, you are also seeing yourself. Every moment becomes a mirror, reflecting not only the truth of the other person, but the state of your own awareness. If you meet someone's movement with judgment, impatience, or a desire to control, that is what you will see reflected back. But if you meet it with stillness, openness, and presence, the reflection changes. The mirror of the moment does not lie. It shows you the exact quality of your own consciousness right now. When you notice a gesture and instantly react with a story, he must be hiding something, or she doesn't care, that reaction is not pure perception. It is your mind projecting its patterns onto the scene. The moment reflects this back to you, not as punishment, but as an invitation to drop projection and return to seeing without distortion. When you are truly present, the gesture you observe becomes luminous, almost transparent. It is no longer just his or her movement, it is life moving, mirrored in your awareness. In this space, the separation between observer and observed begins to soften. You feel not only what the other person's gesture carries, but also how your presence influences what you see. If you are tense, the reflection will be clouded. If you are clear, the reflection will reveal itself without effort. This is why the silent language beneath words, stillness between actions, and the energy behind movement can only be perceived fully when you are rooted in this mirror. Like awareness, the moment is always honest. It has no agenda. It shows you the truth of the other and the truth of yourself in the same frame. When you learn to look without interference, you find that every interaction is a meeting place not of two separate individuals, but of shared being. Even in difficult encounters, this mirror is a gift. You may see someone's gesture and feel irritation rise. Instead of blaming them, you can pause and recognize, this irritation is mine, reflected back through the moment. The gesture revealed not only their inner state, but also yours. This awareness transforms the interaction. You no longer seek to fix or manipulate the other, you simply become more present, more aligned, and in that alignment, the reflection shifts. Naturally, in this way, the mirror of the moment becomes a teacher. It reveals that your capacity to truly see another is inseparable from your capacity to truly see yourself. Every gesture you witness, every pause you notice, every subtle movement you feel, it all reflects your own depth of presence. The more awake you are, the clearer and truer the reflection becomes. And when the reflection is clear, you begin to understand that a single gesture can be more than a clue, it can be a portal. In the same way a doorway invites you into another room, a gesture invites you into another dimension of connection and understanding. It is not simply about decoding emotions or guessing hidden thoughts. It is about stepping through into the living presence that exists beneath appearances. When you witness a gesture without judgment, without rushing to interpret, something opens. Moment expands, time seems to slow, and you feel as if you are standing in direct contact with the essence of the other person. The gesture is no longer a fragment, it becomes a passage into the vastness of their being. Through it, you sense not just their mood or their reaction, but the whole field of awareness they inhabit. This is why presence is so essential. If you are lost in thought, you may catch the movement but miss the portal entirely. The mind, eager to categorize, will close the door before you even realize it was there. But if you remain in that still, mirror-like state, gesture unfolds itself to you. You do not have to push it open. It opens naturally because you are not standing in the way. Sometimes the portal leads to joy, a sudden, unguarded smile that carries you into a shared moment of lightness. Sometimes it leads to sorrow, a tightening around the eyes that reveals an old, unspoken pain. Sometimes it leads to love, a small, almost invisible softening of the body when you are near. Whatever it reveals, it does so without forcing, without pretense. It is life allowing you to glimpse itself through another form. And just as the gesture can be a portal into their world, it can also be a portal into yours. The act of perceiving deeply awakens your own presence. You begin to feel yourself more fully, the way your body responds, the way your breath shifts, the way your own energy changes as you step into that space. The connection becomes two-way, a silent exchange where both beings are momentarily free of the masks they wear. You start to realize that gestures, pauses, movements, all of them are openings, scattered generously throughout life. Each one is an opportunity to step beyond the surface and touch the reality that words cannot hold. And when you pass through these portals often enough, you no longer see interactions as separate events. You see them as an unbroken flow of doorways, each one leading deeper into presence, deeper into truth, deeper into the timeless essence that both you and the other share.